The numbers didn't lie no matter how many times Marcus Bryant ran them through his calculator. Rent, $1,450. Due in 6 days. Utilities, $287. Past due? Groceries, maybe $80 if he stretched it. Checking account balance, $1,647.23. Christmas presents for Zoe, $0. Marcus sat at his small kitchen table in the pre-dawn darkness of December 23rd, the glow of his phone screen illuminating his dark brown face. His daughter's wish list sat beside the calculator, written in careful 8-year-old handwriting with little hearts dotting the I's. A science kit, new winter boots, mine have holes, art supplies, maybe a doll if it's not too expensive. That last line gutted him every time he read it. His baby girl, already learning to make herself small, already understanding that money was tight, already trying to protect him from the weight of her own childhood desires. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Marcus closed the calculator app and rubbed his eyes. 5:47 a.m. He needed to wake Zoe in 13 minutes, get her fed and dressed, drop her at Miss Patricia's house next door, and be at Thornhill Industries by 7:30 a.m. for the holiday team meeting. The holiday team meeting he had a sick feeling about. There'd been whispers for weeks. Budget cuts, restructuring, last hired, first fired. Marcus had only been in the warehouse logistics department for 9 months, still officially in his probationary period. And while his supervisor, Jim Chen, constantly praised his work ethic and organizational skills, Marcus knew how corporate decisions got made. Numbers on a spreadsheet. No faces, no stories, no 8-year-old daughters who needed winter boots. He stood and moved through his morning routine with practiced efficiency. Coffee brewing, Zoe's lunch packed, her favorite purple thermos filled with hot chocolate, a small luxury he couldn't quite give up even when money was this tight. The Christmas lights on their small tree blinked softly in the corner, cheerful and oblivious to his anxiety. Their apartment was small but clean. Marcus kept it that way obsessively, the military habits from his 2 years at West Point still ingrained despite never finishing his degree. Couch covered with a quilt his mother had made before she passed. Framed photos of Zoe at various ages covering one wall. A larger photo of Simone, his wife, holding newborn Zoe. Both of them glowing with joy and hope and a future that would only last 3 more years before a drunk driver took Simone away forever. 5 years now. 5 years of single fatherhood. 5 years of barely keeping his head above water while trying to give Zoe everything she deserved. Daddy? Zoe appeared in the doorway, her natural hair sticking up in all directions, brown eyes still heavy with sleep. She wore the oversized t-shirt she'd claimed as her favorite pajamas, even though it had a small bleach stain on the hem. Morning, Zozo. Marcus scooped her up despite her protests that she was too big for that now. She wrapped her arms around his neck anyway, and for just a moment, the weight of bills and uncertainty lifted. Ready for our last day before Christmas break? Is Santa coming this year? Her voice was small against his shoulder. Of course he is. Why would you ask that? Zoe pulled back to look at him, and her expression was far too serious for 8 years old. Emma at school said Santa only comes if parents have money to help him. She said that's why some kids don't get presents. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. He set Zoe down gently and knelt to her eye level. Listen to me, baby girl. Santa always comes for good kids, and you're the best kid I know. You hear me? But Emma said, Emma doesn't know everything. You're getting Christmas, Zoe. I promise. A promise he had no idea how he'd keep, but he'd figure it out. He always did. Breakfast was oatmeal with cinnamon and a drizzle of honey, Zoe's favorite. She chattered about the Christmas pageant at school while Marcus carefully sectioned her hair, his large hands surprisingly gentle as he worked through tangles and created 2 neat puffs. Simone had taught him this, those precious 3 years when she'd been alive to show him how to care for their daughter's beautiful natural hair. All done, princess. Zoe examined herself in the mirror Marcus held up. Perfect. You're the best at hair, Daddy. Learned from the best, Marcus said softly, touching the photo of Simone he kept on the shelf. Zoe followed his gaze and smiled. Mommy would say you did good. Yeah, baby, she would. Thornhill Industries occupied a gleaming glass tower in downtown Atlanta, all steel and ambition reaching toward a December sky heavy with the promise of rain. Marcus parked his aging Toyota Camry in the employee lot, the far back corner where the older, cheaper cars congregated, and checked his watch. 7:23 a.m., right on time. The warehouse floor was already buzzing when he arrived. His co-workers stood in small clusters, voices hushed, faces tense. Jim Chen caught his eye and gave a small shake of his head that made Marcus's stomach drop. All logistics personnel to conference room B, a voice announced over the intercom. Immediately. The walk to conference room B felt like a death march. 15 employees filed in, taking seats around the long table, and at the head of that table sat someone Marcus had only seen in company newsletters and the large portrait in the main lobby. Vivienne Thornhill, CEO, founder's daughter, the woman who'd transformed her father's modest shipping company into a logistics empire worth $300 million. She was younger than Marcus expected, maybe early 40s, with rich dark brown skin and natural hair pulled back in an elegant twist. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly rent, and her makeup was flawless. But it was her eyes that struck him. Sharp, intelligent, and completely devoid of warmth. This was a woman who'd learned to make hard decisions without flinching. "I'll be brief," Vivienne said, her voice cool and professional. No preamble, no holiday pleasantries. Due to unexpected fourth-quarter losses and projected market conditions, we're implementing immediate cost reduction measures. This includes a 12% reduction in workforce, effective today. The room went deathly silent. Jim will call names. Those individuals will proceed to HR for exit processing. Your final paychecks will include 2 weeks' severance. Security will escort you from the building within the hour. Marcus's hands gripped the edge of the table. Please, not today. Not Christmas Eve. Marcus Bryant. The world tilted. Chen Li. Darnell Foster. 4 more names followed, 7 people total, 7 families, on Christmas Eve. Marcus's throat tightened. He couldn't breathe properly. Couldn't think. His mind kept circling back to Zoe's face this morning, asking if Santa was coming, and his promise that echoed now like mockery. You're getting Christmas, Zoe, I promise. Miss Thornhill. The words came out before Marcus could stop them. Please, can I speak with you for just a moment? Vivienne's gaze cut to him, sharp as glass. HR will address any questions. It's Christmas Eve. Marcus stood, aware of every eye in the room on him. I understand business decisions have to be made, but is there any way to delay this until after the holidays? Even just a few days? Something flickered across Vivienne's face. Irritation, maybe, or discomfort. Mr. Bryant, I understand this is difficult timing. I have an 8-year-old daughter who thinks Santa's coming in 2 days. I have $1,600 in my account and rent due next week. I've been here 9 months, and my supervisor will tell you I've never been late, never missed a day, always exceeded targets. His voice cracked. I'm not asking to keep my job if the numbers don't work. I'm just asking for a few more days so I can figure out how to give my little girl Christmas. The room was so quiet Marcus could hear the fluorescent lights humming. Vivienne stood slowly. Her expression had hardened into something cold and impenetrable. Mr. Bryant, I have 300 employees across 4 facilities. I cannot make individual accommodations based on personal circumstances. That's not how business works. This isn't about business. This is about basic human decency. Decency doesn't pay operational costs. Her voice could have frozen water. Sentimentality doesn't keep companies solvent. I made a decision based on data, and I don't apologize for that. Data. Marcus felt something break loose inside him, anger mixing with desperation. Is that what we are to you? Just numbers on your spreadsheet? You're firing 7 people on Christmas Eve and you can't even pretend to care? Vivienne's jaw tightened. Security. I have a daughter. Everyone has a story, Mr. Bryant. Vivienne's voice cut through his words like a blade. Everyone has circumstances. If I let emotion dictate business decisions, I wouldn't have a company to run. You have 1 hour to clear your things. She walked out without looking back. Marcus stood there, trembling with rage and fear and humiliation. Jim Chen put a hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, Marcus. I fought for you. She wouldn't listen. The next hour passed in a blur of shame, cleaning out his locker while coworkers averted their eyes, signing termination papers in HR while a board clerk processed him like a damaged package. Security escorting him through the lobby, past the Christmas decorations and the giant portrait of Vivienne Thornhill accepting some humanitarian award. The irony burned. Marcus sat in his car in the parking lot, hands shaking on the steering wheel. 9:14 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Unemployed, nearly broke, with a daughter who believed in him completely. He let himself cry for exactly 3 minutes. Then he wiped his face, started the car, and began planning. There had to be a way forward. There always was. He just couldn't see it yet. Vivienne Thornhill stood at her office window 70 feet above Atlanta's streets, watching employees leave for the day. The city was decorated for Christmas. Lights strung between buildings, wreaths on doors, all that manufactured cheer. She felt nothing. The terminations had been necessary. Her CFO had run the numbers 3 times. 12% workforce reduction or risk defaulting on their expansion loan. It was simple mathematics. Business 101. She'd made harder decisions before. So why couldn't she stop seeing Marcus Bryant's face? I have an 8-year-old daughter who thinks Santa's coming. Miss Thornhill, her assistant, Keisha, appeared in the doorway. The final reports are on your desk. Is there anything else you need before I leave? No. Go enjoy your holiday. Keisha hesitated. For what it's worth, people are talking about this morning. Some of the warehouse staff are pretty upset about the timing. I'm aware. That Bryant guy, Marcus, Jim Chen says he's one of the best workers they've had. Single dad. Wife died a few years back. Vivienne's hand tightened on her pen. Keisha, I don't need the sob stories. Decisions were made based on seniority and operational requirements. Of course, I just thought you should know people are saying. She stopped. Saying what? That it was cold, firing people on Christmas Eve. Vivienne turned to face her assistant, and Keisha actually took a step back from whatever she saw in her boss's expression. Running a company requires making difficult decisions. If I worried about being liked, we'd be bankrupt. Is there anything else? No, ma'am. Merry Christmas. After Keisha left, Vivienne returned to her window. The city twinkled below, full of people heading home to families, to warmth, to whatever Christmas meant to them. She'd be spending it alone. Again. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. Board dinner tonight at 7. Don't be late. Right. The mandatory Thornhill Christmas Eve dinner where the board members gathered to congratulate themselves on another profitable year. Where Vivienne would sit at the head of the table and discuss quarterly projections while everyone pretended this was somehow festive. She typed back, I'll be there. Vivienne worked until 6:30, then drove to her penthouse to change. The luxury condo was immaculate and empty, decorated by professional service with a white tree and silver ornaments that looked elegant and utterly soulless. No family photos. No handmade decorations. Nothing that suggested an actual human lived here. She showered and dressed mechanically, her mind still churning through the day's numbers. The terminations would save $840,000 annually. The expansion could proceed on schedule. Everything was proceeding according to plan. So why did she feel so hollowed out? The board dinner was exactly as tedious as expected. Rich food she barely tasted. Expensive wine she didn't drink. Conversation about market shares and competitor analysis while Christmas music played in the background like a mockery. "Vivienne, your father tells us you made some tough calls today," Richard Morrison, the oldest board member, said. "Workforce reduction before the holidays. Bold move." "Necessary move," Vivienne corrected. "We identified operational inefficiencies and addressed them. Still, Christmas Eve." Richard's wife, Carol, tutted softly. "That must have been difficult. Business doesn't stop for holidays." Her father, Gerald Thornhill, raised his glass. "That's my daughter. Never let sentiment interfere with sound business practices." Everyone drank to that, and Vivienne smiled the same cool smile she'd perfected over 15 years of clawing her way to the top. But Marcus Bryant's face kept intruding. "I'm just asking for a few more days so I can figure out how to give my little girl Christmas." Vivienne left the dinner at 11:30, claiming early morning obligations. Her father didn't protest. He never did. Their relationship had become transactional years ago. Board meetings and quarterly reviews, nothing deeper. She drove through empty Atlanta streets, past houses with lights in the windows and inflatable Santas on lawns. The city felt foreign, like she was watching someone else's life through glass. At a red light, she found herself turning right instead of heading home. She didn't plan it. Her hands just moved, following some impulse she didn't understand. 10 minutes later, Vivienne sat in her Mercedes in a parking lot of a 24-hour diner, staring at the warm light spilling from its windows. A few desperate souls sat inside, people with nowhere else to be on Christmas Eve. She should go home. Instead, she got out and walked inside. The diner was nearly empty. A tired waitress, an elderly man nursing coffee at the counter. And in the back booth, she saw him. Marcus Bryant sat hunched over a laptop, surrounded by papers and a half-empty coffee cup. His face was drawn with exhaustion, his work shirt wrinkled like he'd been wearing it for 16 hours. He was filling out what looked like job applications, his jaw tight with determination and quiet desperation. And beside him, curled up and sleeping with her head on his lap, was a little girl, 8 years old, with perfect puffs in her hair and a threadbare winter coat bundled around her. Her small hand clutched her father's shirt even in sleep, like she was afraid he might disappear. Vivienne froze. She should leave, walk out before he saw her. But something rooted her in place, watching this man she'd destroyed apply for jobs at midnight on Christmas Eve while his daughter slept because he clearly had nowhere else to take her. Marcus must have felt her stare. He looked up, and recognition flashed across his face. Then something harder, colder. "Miss Thornhill," his voice was flat. "Come to make sure I'm really unemployed?" Vivienne's throat constricted. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Where else would we be?" Marcus's hand moved to his daughter's back, protective. "Miss Patricia next door has family visiting. I couldn't ask her to watch Zoe overnight, and I can't afford to miss a single job posting just because it's Christmas Eve." "Your daughter." "Her name is Zoe, and she's sleeping in a diner booth on Christmas Eve because her father got fired today and can't afford our rent." The words hit like physical blows. Vivienne took a step closer, then stopped when Marcus's expression darkened. "Mr. Bryant, You what? You're sorry? You didn't mean it?" His voice was low so he wouldn't wake Zoe, but anger vibrated through every word. "You looked me in the face and told me everyone has a story. You said sentimentality doesn't keep companies solvent. So please don't insult me by pretending you care now. I was doing my job. Your job is destroying families at Christmas. My job is keeping 293 other employees working. Sometimes that requires difficult choices." Marcus laughed, bitter and broken. "Difficult for who? You're going home to your penthouse. I'm going to wake my daughter up in an hour and take her back to an apartment I might not have next month, and somehow explain why Santa might not come this year." Vivienne had no response to that. Zoe stirred, making a small sound. Marcus immediately softened, stroking her hair. "Shh, baby. Daddy's here." The little girl's eyes fluttered open. She looked confused for a moment, then saw her father and relaxed. "Did you find a job yet, Daddy?" "Not yet, Zozo, but I will." Zoe sat up, rubbing her eyes. Then she noticed Vivienne standing there. "Who's that lady?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Nobody. She was just leaving." But Zoe was studying Vivienne with the unfiltered curiosity of childhood. "You look sad. Are you okay?" The question was so unexpected, so innocent that Vivienne actually stepped back. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine. You look like my daddy did when Mommy died." Marcus touched his daughter's shoulder. "Zoe, that's not appropriate." "But she does, Daddy. She has the same eyes." Vivienne felt something crack open inside her chest. This child, this 8-year-old whose Christmas she'd destroyed, was looking at her with concern instead of anger. "I should go," Vivienne managed. She turned to leave, but Zoe's voice followed her. "My daddy says when someone looks sad at Christmas, it means they don't have anyone to love them." "Is that why you're sad?" Vivienne stopped. Her hand was on the door. She could push through, get in her car, drive away, never think about this again. But she couldn't move. Slowly, she turned back. Marcus and Zoe were both watching her now, Marcus with guarded anger, Zoe with open sympathy. "Yes," Vivienne heard herself say, "that's exactly why." And then, for the first time in 15 years, Vivienne Thornhill started to cry. Vivienne Thornhill didn't cry. Not in board meetings, not when her father criticized her leadership, not during the brutal divorce from a man who'd married her for her money and left when he realized she'd never prioritize him over the company. But in this worn-down diner at 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve, tears streamed down her face while an 8-year-old girl and her unemployed father stared at her. "I'm sorry," Vivienne managed, wiping at her eyes with trembling hands. Her mascara was probably running. She didn't care. "I shouldn't have. I'll go." "Wait." It was Marcus who spoke, and his voice had lost some of its edge. He looked at his daughter, then back at Vivienne. "Zoe, baby, why don't you go ask the nice waitress for a hot chocolate? Tell her to put it on our tab." Zoe hesitated, studying the crying woman with those two perceptive eyes. "Is she going to be okay?" "I think so. Go ahead, Zozo." After Zoe left, Marcus gestured to the seat across from him. "Sit down before you fall down." Vivienne should refuse, should walk out with whatever dignity she had left. Instead, she sank into the booth, her expensive suit looking absurd against the cracked vinyl. "I don't do this," she said. "I don't fall apart." "Everyone falls apart sometimes." Marcus's voice was still guarded, but softer. "Even CEOs, I guess." "Your daughter asked if I was sad because no one loves me." Vivienne laughed, a broken sound. "And the worst part is she's right. I have a penthouse, a company worth $300 million, everything I worked for. And I spent Christmas Eve at a board dinner discussing quarterly projections while you were here with your daughter because I destroyed your life this morning." "Yeah, you did." The blunt honesty was somehow easier to take than false sympathy would have been. "I convinced myself it was just business," Vivienne continued, "that I was protecting the majority by sacrificing a few. That's what leaders do, right? Make hard calls. But seeing you here, seeing her—" Her voice broke. "She looks at you like you hung the moon, and I took away your ability to give her Christmas." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "You want to know the really messed up part? I get it. I understand the position you were in. When you're responsible for hundreds of people, you can't save everyone. My first year at West Point, they taught us that. Triage. Save the most you can, even if it means losing some." "West Point?" Vivienne looked up. "You went to West Point?" 2 years. Had to drop out when Simone got pregnant and my scholarship wasn't enough to support a family. Got my logistics certifications instead and worked my way up from warehouse floor positions." His jaw tightened. "I was good at what I did for you. Jim can show you the numbers. I increased efficiency in my sector by 23% in 9 months. Then why were you on the termination list?" "Last hired, first fired. Standard protocol." Marcus leaned back. "So, yeah, Ms. Thornhill, I understand business. What I don't understand is how someone builds a company worth $300 million and ends up alone in a Mercedes outside a diner on Christmas Eve, looking for something they can't name." The observation cut too close to the truth. Zoe returned with her hot chocolate, eyeing them both carefully. "Are you still sad, lady?" "Yes," Vivienne admitted, "but maybe a little less than before." "That's good." Zoe climbed back into the booth next to her father. "My daddy says sadness is like a storm. You have to let it rain before the sun comes back." Vivienne found herself smiling despite everything. "Your daddy sounds very wise." "He is." Zoe took a sip of hot chocolate. "He's the best daddy in the whole world. Even when things are hard, he never stops trying." Marcus's hand moved to his daughter's shoulder, and Vivienne saw the exhaustion in his eyes, the weight of 5 years carrying everything alone. "Mr. Bryant, Marcus, I can't give you your job back. The terminations are already processed, and reversing them would create—" She stopped. "I'm making excuses again. The truth is, I could reverse it if I wanted to. I just don't know if you'd even want to work for someone who did what I did." Marcus studied her for a long moment. "What are you really asking?" "I don't know." And that was the most honest thing Vivienne had said all day. "I just know I can't walk away from this. From you. From her. Something about tonight feels like I'm supposed to be here." "Are you going to help my daddy find a job?" Zoe asked. Vivienne looked at this little girl with her hopeful eyes and perfect puffs and felt something shift inside her chest. "Yes, if he'll let me." "Why would you do that?" Marcus asked. "Guilt?" "Maybe. Probably. But also—" Vivienne paused, trying to find words for something she barely understood herself. "Your daughter asked me if I was sad, because no one loves me. And I realized I've spent 15 years building walls so high that love couldn't reach me even if it tried. I fired 7 people today without flinching because I'd convinced myself that caring was weakness. But sitting here now, watching you apply for jobs at midnight so you can give your daughter Christmas, that's not weakness. That's the kind of strength I've never had." Marcus's expression softened slightly. "You think feeling nothing makes you strong. I thought it made me safe. How's that working out for you?" Vivienne laughed, another broken sound. "Terribly." They sat in silence for a moment. The diner's fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Outside, Atlanta slept through the early hours of Christmas morning. "I have a proposition," Vivienne finally said, "and I need you to hear me out before you say no." Marcus crossed his arms. "I'm listening." "Thornhill Industries needs a director of operations efficiency. It's a newly created position. I've been planning it for months but hadn't pulled the trigger on hiring. The salary is $95,000, full benefits, stock options. The job would be analyzing our logistics operations across all facilities and implementing improvements." "You're offering me a director position? 12 hours after firing me from a warehouse job? I'm offering you a job that uses your actual skills. You went to West Point, you have logistics certifications. Jim says you increased efficiency by 23% in 9 months. That's not warehouse worker performance. That's strategic thinking." Vivienne leaned forward. "I put you in the wrong role because I didn't look past your resume. That's on me. This is me correcting that mistake." "This is charity," Marcus said flatly. "It's not. I'll have you sign a 6-month probationary contract with performance benchmarks. If you don't meet them, you're out. But if you do—" Vivienne pulled out her phone and showed him the actual job description she'd drafted months ago. "This is real, and you're qualified for it." Marcus read through the description, and Vivienne watched wariness battle with hope across his face. "Why?" he finally asked. "The real reason." Vivienne looked at Zoe, who was watching her with those knowing eyes. "Because your daughter reminded me that I used to be someone different, before my father taught me that emotions were liabilities and success meant sacrificing everything else. I built exactly what he wanted, a company that runs on pure logic and profit margins. And I'm completely alone. So you want to fix your guilt by fixing my life? No, I want to fix my mistake by hiring the right person for the right job. And maybe—" her voice dropped. "Maybe I want to remember what it feels like to do something because it's right, not because it's profitable." Marcus looked at his daughter. "What do you think, Zozo?" Zoe tilted her head, studying Vivienne with that unnerving 8-year-old intensity. "I think she's telling the truth, and I think she's sad like you were sad after Mommy died. She needs someone to be nice to her." "She fired Daddy. She's the reason we're here." "I know." Zoe reached across the table and took Vivienne's hand. The gesture was so unexpected that Vivienne actually gasped. "But Daddy says everyone makes mistakes, and she's trying to fix it. That's what matters, right?" Vivienne looked down at the small brown hand holding hers and felt tears threatening again. Marcus sighed. "Against my better judgment, I'll look at the contract, but I'm not making any promises, and if this is some kind of setup, I'll walk." "Fair enough." Vivienne pulled up the contract on her phone and sent it to the email address on Marcus's resume. "I'll need an answer by tomorrow. By today, I guess. It's technically Christmas now." "Christmas?" Marcus checked his watch. "Zoe, we need to get you home. It's almost 1 a.m. But what about Santa?" Zoe's eyes went wide. "We have to be asleep or he won't come." Vivienne saw Marcus's face fall, saw the weight of a promise he couldn't keep crushing him all over again. "Zoe," Marcus started, his voice rough. "Baby, about Santa—" "I'll take care of it," Vivienne interrupted. Both Marcus and Zoe stared at her. "Give me your address. I'll have gifts delivered to your apartment by morning. Science kit, winter boots, art supplies, whatever was on her list." "Absolutely not." Marcus's voice went hard. "I don't take handouts. It's not a handout. Consider it a signing bonus. You haven't accepted the job yet, but I'm betting you will once you read that contract. This is standard practice. Signing bonuses are money, not toys for my kid. Daddy," Zoe said softly, "please, I've been so good this year." Marcus looked at his daughter, and Vivienne watched something break inside him. The pride that had been holding him together, the stubborn independence that kept him going, it all crumbled in the face of his daughter's quiet plea. "Fine," he whispered. "But this doesn't change anything. I still don't trust this." "You shouldn't," Vivienne said honestly. "Trust is earned. I'm just asking for a chance to earn it." Marcus gave her his address, and Vivienne immediately started texting her assistant, Keisha, who was going to have a very unexpected Christmas morning. Christmas morning arrived with gray skies and the smell of rain. Marcus woke at 6:47 a.m. to Zoe shaking his shoulder. "Daddy, Daddy, Santa came. He really came." Marcus's heart clenched. Either Vivienne Thornhill had followed through, or his daughter was about to face devastating disappointment. He followed Zoe to their small living room. Beneath their modest tree sat perfectly wrapped presents. A science kit, the exact one from Zoe's list. Winter boots in her size, pink with little stars, professional-grade art supplies, and a beautiful black doll with natural hair and a scientist's lab coat. But that wasn't what made Marcus's throat tighten. On the kitchen counter sat coffee. Good coffee, the expensive kind he couldn't afford, and a box of fresh pastries from the French bakery downtown, and a note in elegant handwriting. "Merry Christmas. The coffee is because I noticed you drink terrible diner coffee at midnight. The pastries are because everyone deserves something special on Christmas morning. And the gifts are because Zoe was right. I needed someone to be nice to me. Letting me give her this was the greatest gift I could have received. The contract is in your email. No pressure. But I meant every word. V. Marcus sat down heavily on the couch, watching Zoe tear into her presents with squeals of delight. Vivienne Thornhill had saved Christmas. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. 2 hours later, after Zoe had erupted her volcano 3 times and was happily drawing with her new supplies, Marcus opened the contract. It was legitimate. $95,000 salary. Full benefits. 6-month probationary period with clear, achievable performance metrics. The role was exactly what Vivienne had described: strategic operations analysis and efficiency improvement. It was also the opportunity of a lifetime. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Marcus, it's Vivienne. Did the gifts arrive? Her voice sounded different, uncertain, almost vulnerable. Yes. Zoe's been screaming with joy for 2 hours. You gave her the exact science kit she wanted. How did you know? I may have called the school and spoken to her teacher last night. Mrs. Rodriguez was very helpful once I explained the situation. Marcus didn't know whether to be grateful or disturbed that she'd gone to such lengths. You didn't have to do this. I know, but I wanted to. Did you read the contract? Yes. And? Marcus looked at Zoe, who was holding her new doll and talking to it about scientific experiments. He thought about the rent due in 5 days, about the opportunity to actually use his skills and education, about the risk of trusting someone who'd already hurt him once. I'll take the job, 6-month probation. If it doesn't work out, I walk with no hard feelings. Silence on the other end. Then, thank you, I won't let you down. You already did once, don't do it again. I won't. A pause. Marcus, can I ask you something? Sure. What are you doing today, for Christmas? The question caught him off guard. I was going to make breakfast, watch Zoe play with her presents, maybe walk to the park if the rain holds off. Why? I'm in my penthouse with professionally decorated trees and catered food I ordered for one, and I realized I have absolutely no one to spend today with. Her voice got smaller. Would it be completely inappropriate if I asked to join you? I'll bring the food. I promise I'm not trying to insert myself into your life. I don't want to be alone today. Marcus should say no, should maintain boundaries. But he heard something in her voice that resonated with the loneliness he'd felt for 5 years. Bring the food, and maybe a movie or something. Zoe loves Christmas movies. Really? Really? But Vivienne, this doesn't mean I trust you yet. You're on probation, too. Fair enough. I'll be there in an hour. Vivienne arrived 53 minutes later with enough food to feed 10 people, 3 Christmas movies, and a nervousness that looked completely foreign on her usually composed face. Hi, Zoe opened the door. You came. Look at what Santa brought me. She dragged Vivienne inside without waiting for a response. Marcus watched from the kitchen doorway as Vivienne, CEO, millionaire, the woman who'd fired him yesterday, sat on his worn couch while his daughter excitedly showed her every single present. This is the science kit. It has 23 different experiments, and these are my new boots. See the stars? And this is Dr. Sarah. She's a scientist like I'm going to be. Dr. Sarah is beautiful, Vivienne said softly. Just like you. Do you like dolls? Zoe asked. I used to. When I was your age, I had one doll. My mother gave it to me before she... Vivienne stopped abruptly. Before she what? Zoe settled beside her, doll in lap. Before she died, I was 9. Cancer. My mommy died too, Zoe said matter-of-factly. A car hit her. I was 3, so I don't remember much. But Daddy tells me stories. Vivienne's eyes glistened. I bet they're beautiful stories. They are. He says she was the strongest person he ever knew, and that I'm just like her." Zoe touched Vivienne's hand. "Did anyone tell you stories about your mommy?" "No. My father said it was better to move forward than dwell on the past." Zoe's face scrunched up in disapproval. "That's sad. You should remember the people you love." Marcus watched Vivienne struggle to compose herself and decided to intervene. "All right, Zozo, let Miss Thornhill breathe. Why don't you show her your volcano while I heat up this food?" In the kitchen, Marcus unpacked containers of Christmas ham, sweet potato casserole, mac and cheese that looked homemade, green beans, and cornbread. Real food, not the tight-budget meals he'd been stretching. Vivienne appeared in the doorway. "Zoe's testing the volcano's eruption mechanisms. I have approximately 4 minutes before she demands I watch the full demonstration." She's excited. First real Christmas since... Marcus stopped. "Since you got fired yesterday morning?" "Yeah." They worked in silence for a moment, Marcus plating food while Vivienne found glasses for juice. "You're good with her," Marcus finally said. "Zoe doesn't warm up to people easily, but she likes you. She sees through pretense. I think that's why I broke down last night. She looked at me and saw exactly what I've been hiding from everyone, including myself." "What's that?" Vivienne set down the glasses. "That I'm completely empty inside. That I built this empire my father wanted, and somewhere along the way, I forgot to build a life. I'm 42 years old, Marcus. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. And last night I sat in my car outside a diner because I literally had nowhere else to go on Christmas Eve. What about friends? Family? My father and I have a professional relationship at best. My mother's been gone 33 years. I was engaged once. He left when he realized I'd never love him more than the company. And friends." She laughed bitterly. "Everyone wants something. Business connections, investments, access. I stopped being able to tell the difference between genuine interest and strategic networking." Marcus leaned against the counter, studying her. This wasn't the cold CEO from yesterday morning. This was someone who'd finally let down her guard. "So, what changed? Why reach out to me?" "Because your daughter asked me if I was sad because no one loved me, and I realized the answer was yes. But more than that, I realized I'd become someone who didn't deserve to be loved. I fired 7 people on Christmas Eve without blinking. What kind of person does that?" "Someone who's afraid," Marcus said quietly. "Fear makes us do terrible things to protect ourselves." "What am I afraid of?" "Same thing I am, being vulnerable, letting someone in and having them leave." He touched the photo of Simone on the shelf. "I lost my wife 5 years ago, and I've been so focused on protecting Zoe and keeping us afloat that I haven't let myself feel anything real since. You lost your mother at 9, and your father taught you that caring was weakness. We're both hiding behind walls." Vivienne's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know how to stop. Maybe we figure it out together." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and risk. "Daddy, Miss Vivienne, the volcano's ready." Zoe's voice broke the moment. They spent Christmas Day in Marcus's small apartment, watching Zoe's volcano erupt repeatedly, eating too much food, watching Elf and the Polar Express while Zoe provided running commentary. And slowly, something shifted. Vivienne laughed, really laughed, when Zoe made a joke. Marcus found himself telling stories about Simone without the usual ache. Zoe fell asleep between them on the couch during the second movie, her head on Vivienne's lap, feet in Marcus's. "She's beautiful," Vivienne whispered, carefully stroking Zoe's hair. "You've done an incredible job with her." "Most days I feel like I'm barely holding it together." "That's called being human. I've spent 15 years trying to transcend that, and look where it got me." She smiled sadly. "Sitting on a stranger's couch on Christmas, feeling more at home than I have in my own penthouse in years." Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. Without the armor of expensive suits and CEO confidence, Vivienne Thornhill was just a woman who'd lost her way and was trying to find it again. "You're not a stranger anymore," he said softly. "I don't know what you are exactly, but not a stranger." "What am I, then?" Marcus considered. "Maybe someone who needed saving as much as I did." Vivienne's eyes met his, and something passed between them. Understanding, recognition, the beginning of something neither of them was ready to name. Marcus started his new position on January 2nd. Vivienne had arranged for his office to be on the executive floor, 3 doors down from her own. The message was clear. He wasn't just another employee. He was someone she'd chosen personally. The company noticed immediately. "Heard you got promoted from warehouse to director," Jim Chen said during Marcus's first week. "That's quite a jump." "The CEO recognized I had skills that were being underutilized." "The CEO who fired you on Christmas Eve and then gave you a $95,000 job? People are talking, Marcus. Let them talk. I'm here to do a job." But the whispers followed him. Special treatment, playing favorites. Some people suggested he'd had an affair with Vivienne. Others said he must have something on her, blackmail maybe. The truth, that she'd had a breakdown in a diner and he'd somehow become her path back to humanity, was too complicated to explain. Vivienne seemed oblivious to the gossip. Or maybe she didn't care. She'd started showing up at Marcus's apartment 3 or 4 evenings a week, usually with dinner and a willingness to help Zoe with homework or just sit and talk. "People at work think we're sleeping together," Marcus told her one evening in late January. Zoe was in bed, and they sat at his small kitchen table with coffee. Vivienne's eyebrows rose. "Are they upset about it?" "Some are. They think you're playing favorites." "I am playing favorites. You're good at your job, Marcus. Those efficiency reports you submitted last week were exactly what I needed. You've already identified $300,000 in potential annual savings." "That's not the point. The point is—" He stopped. "What are we doing, Vivienne?" "What do you mean?" "This. You being here 4 nights a week, bringing dinner, helping with Zoe's homework, reading her bedtime stories, sitting with me after she's asleep and talking until midnight. What is this?" Vivienne's carefully composed expression cracked slightly. "I don't know. I just know that when I'm here, I feel like myself for the first time in years. Is that wrong?" "No. But it's complicated. You're my boss. You're also becoming important to Zoe. And I—" Marcus stopped, not ready to finish that sentence. "You what?" "I look forward to you coming over. I think about you during the day. I notice when you smile at something Zoe says, and it makes my chest feel tight. And that scares the hell out of me because I don't know if this is real or if you're just lonely and I'm convenient." Vivienne went very still. "You think you're convenient?" "I think you had a crisis on Christmas Eve and latched onto the first person who showed you genuine human connection. I think in 3 months you'll get bored of playing house with me and Zoe, and we'll be left picking up the pieces. That's not what this is." "Then what is it?" Vivienne stood up, pacing his small kitchen. "I don't know. I don't have words for this because I've never felt it before. I wake up thinking about Zoe's laugh. I find excuses to stop by your office at work just to see your face. I go home to my empty penthouse and hate it because it's not here. I'm 42 years old and I've never—" She stopped, pressing her palms against the counter. "Never what?" "Never felt like I was home until I walked into this apartment." The confession hung in the air between them. Marcus stood slowly. "Vivienne. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. I know I'm your boss and that creates all kinds of ethical issues. But Marcus, I think I'm falling for you. For both of you. And that terrifies me because everyone I've ever loved has left." Marcus crossed the kitchen until they were inches apart. He could see tears gathering in her eyes, see the vulnerability she usually hid so carefully. "My wife died 5 years ago," Marcus said quietly, and I promised myself I wouldn't let anyone that close again because losing her nearly destroyed me. But then you showed up in that diner crying because my daughter asked you one honest question, and something in me recognized something in you. What? Someone worth saving. Someone worth the risk. He reached up carefully and wiped a tear from her cheek. I'm scared too, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we're supposed to be scared together. Vivienne leaned into his touch. What if I mess this up? What if I hurt Zoe? What if it works? Marcus interrupted gently. What if this is real? Can it be real? This fast? I don't know, but I want to find out. They stood there in his small kitchen, the space between them charged with everything they weren't saying. Marcus's hand was still on her face. Vivienne's hand had come up to rest on his chest. I haven't done this in a very long time, she whispered. Done what? Let myself want something just because it feels right instead of because it's strategically sound. Marcus smiled. How does it feel? Terrifying and amazing. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. The kiss was soft, tentative, full of promise and fear and hope. When they pulled apart, both were breathing unevenly. Wow, Vivienne breathed. Yeah. So what do we do now? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. The screen showed Miss Patricia's number. His elderly neighbor never called this late unless something was wrong. Hello? Marcus, honey, I hate to bother you, but there's a man here at your building asking about you. Says he's from Child Protective Services. He's got questions about Zoe's living conditions and your recent job change. I didn't let him in, but he says he'll be back tomorrow with a warrant to check your apartment. Marcus's blood went cold. What? Someone filed a report claiming you're housing Zoe in inadequate conditions and that you're involved in inappropriate relationships with your employer. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I told him that was nonsense, but he says it's policy to investigate all reports. Marcus looked at Vivienne, and she must have seen something in his face because her expression immediately shifted to alarm. I'll be right there, Marcus said, ending the call. Someone called CPS on me. What? Why? Apparently, someone reported that I'm housing Zoe inappropriately and having an inappropriate relationship with my employer. He laughed bitterly. The office gossip just became a lot more dangerous. Vivienne's face went hard, the CEO mask slamming back into place. I'll call our legal team right now. No, that'll just make it worse. Make it look like I'm using your resources to cover something up. Marcus grabbed his jacket. I need to go talk to Miss Patricia, document everything. Make sure the apartment is spotless for when they come tomorrow. I'm coming with you. That's the last thing you should do. If CPS sees you at my apartment at midnight, it'll confirm everything they've been told. Vivienne grabbed his arm. Marcus, I won't let them take Zoe from you. Whatever it takes. You can't fix this with money or power, Vivienne. This is CPS. They're looking for any excuse to remove kids from single-parent homes, especially single black fathers. If they think you're clouding my judgment or that I'm prioritizing a relationship over Zoe's needs, his voice cracked. I could lose her. We'll fight this, together. There is no we in this. You're my boss. That's all you can be until this is resolved. He pulled away gently. I need you to stay away for a while. No more dinners, no more visits, nothing that could be twisted into evidence against me. Marcus, please, Vivienne, if you care about me at all, stay away from my daughter. The words hit her like a physical blow. Marcus saw the hurt flash across her face, but he couldn't afford to care right now. Zoe came first. She always came first. He left Vivienne standing in his kitchen, tears streaming down her face, and went to protect the only thing in his world that truly mattered. Marcus Bryant, a single father and warehouse worker, is wrongfully fired on Christmas Eve by CEO Vivienne Thornhill. That night, while at a diner with his 8-year-old daughter Zoe, they encounter a distraught Vivienne. Zoe's innocent question about her sadness breaks through Vivienne's emotional walls, revealing a lonely woman who's spent her life prioritizing business over personal connections. Realizing her mistake, Vivienne rehires Marcus in a role that matches his West Point background, tripling his salary. As they grow closer, a vindictive coworker reports Marcus to Child Protective Services, forcing him to distance himself from Vivienne to protect his custody of Zoe. Vivienne makes a dramatic choice. She resigns as CEO to pursue genuine happiness. Together, they fight the custody battle with legal help, ultimately winning when a judge recognizes Marcus as an excellent father and dismisses the malicious claims. Over the following years, Marcus and Vivienne marry, creating a blended family that includes Zoe and later an adopted daughter, Emma. What began as a devastating firing transforms into a story of healing, showing how two broken people found love, family, and purpose by choosing vulnerability over self-protection. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.